for life extension, right? So lean mass is like one of the key things that correlates with extended lifespan is lean mass. But rapamycin is going to cause is going to inhibit muscle growth because it's inhibiting mTOR. So when you're dosing rapamycin, how would you use kind of taking the rapamycin with your exercise regimen to have the best outcome?
Good point. One of the new sections in my book, I wrote a chapter on sarcopenia, which is one of the real age-related diseases where with aging, you gradually lose your muscle mass and your strength. And along with sarcopenia, in that chapter, I wrote about protein and weight training and strength training and rapamycin, and how all of these things can actually slow down the process of sarcopenia. But what we learned about, in basic to your question about how this influences muscle mass, a lot of people that regularly do strength training thought that this was not going to be a good idea for them, that it would inhibit muscle growth. But actually, it's just the opposite. We find out that when autophagy gets activated, it's breaking down old damaged proteins and enzymes. And then when you start to reactivate mTOR, you are building new protein and new muscle mass. So the process of autophagy really facilitates the growth of new muscle mass. And so it's something that's actually very good for strength building, strength exercisers. But in my second edition of my book, I've really emphasized how critically important protein is, especially for the elderly, because as we age, we are less able to start synthesizing new protein. And that can be compensated for by elderly people if they have more protein intake. But most people, as they age, start eating less and ingest less protein. So I really encourage people to read the section in my book and read how important it is to consume adequate amounts of quality protein. After I do my strength training now, I come home and I do a fruit smoothie with a protein powder supplement. So I've got good protein available to my body to utilize after I've done the strength training. And so we know that strength training slows down autophagy, and quality protein, and then rapamycin also, by inhibiting protein and allowing the body to break down some of the old structures so that it can be rebuilt during the mTOR phase, is really the process of rebuilding and renewing your body.
So how do you time like the eating of the rapamycin or the taking of the rapamycin with your strength training days? Do you separate them, or does it matter?
No, I take my rapamycin every Sunday. And I do strength training about 5 days a week. And I just keep doing my regular exercise program. And a couple of days a week, I'm doing spin classes for aerobic fitness, and it's killing me. I'm trying to get my aerobic fitness back here at 80 years old. I'm finding that's it's one of the things that I've had trouble with, maintaining my aerobic capacity. But I just take my rapamycin once a week and continue with my regular exercise program, and it's really not an issue. I feel strong and healthy and haven't had any side effects. I really encourage people to think about also doing a little bit longer fasting occasionally. I've experimented with this a couple of times myself. I used to think fasting was just for health nuts. I mean, but I have done a 2-day fast and a 3-day fast, and I was just astounded at how easy it is for me. Now, I know it's not going to be easy for everybody. People have different makeups, and some people will go into a low blood sugar crash and just can't do this fasting. But I was really surprised to find out for myself that just doing water or coffee with no organic coffee and no cream and sugar or anything, I can get by just fine for a couple of days. And I realized that a lot of my eating habits are just a habit. I like to snack on things, and I walk from my office to the kitchen and get a handful of nuts or some fruit or whatever. But if I set my mind to not eat, I can do 2 or 3 days of a total fast without any problem. And I think there's significant benefit to doing this. Again, we don't have all the answers, but maybe once every 3 or 4 months or something, to get a little bit longer fasting process and more time for autophagy to really work on tearing down the old parts of your body so you can accelerate the rebuilding of your body.
Can you overdo autophagy? I mean, if you're fasting,
Sure.
you're exercising, you're taking rapamycin, like all of them together. I mean, yeah.
Good question. You can overdo autophagy. Some life extension enthusiasts might be doing rapamycin. They might be doing metformin. They might be doing 2 or 3 or 4 other life extension drugs. And yes, you can overdo it. So that's where you need to do some lab tests and check your lab values and make sure that you're not upsetting your blood chemistries too much.
One of the things with rapamycin is, right, it has this life extension effect, but it is also a regulated drug. So you need to get it through doctors. You know, in a perfect world, because I think there's other drugs, like there's like SGL2 inhibitors. It's difficult to get them for healthy people who would just want to get life. So in a perfect world, I mean, how would you see that would work? I mean, how would that be approved by the FDA?
In a perfect, I've actually addressed this in the second edition of my book. I'm making a case for FDA reform. And there's a growing movement trying to get the FDA to recognize aging as a disease. And if aging gets recognized as a disease, then drug companies and venture capitalists are going to fund studies to develop new products, because at the present time, the FDA will not approve anything for aging. It has to be for Alzheimer's disease or diabetes or some specific disease. But if the FDA would approve aging as a disease, then we could study aging more efficiently, and different types of anti-aging or life extension drugs could get approved by the FDA. That would accelerate the development of different types of therapies for aging to retard the aging process significantly.
Why is magnesium important? Magnesium plays many crucial roles in the body, such as supporting muscle and nerve function and energy production. To ensure that we have sufficient magnesium, my wife and I take Magnesium Breakthrough from Biooptimizers. Do you know that there are 2 options to use Magnesium Breakthrough to support your health? I take Magnesium Breakthrough at night to help with muscle recovery, avoid cramps, and have more peaceful sleep. My wife takes 1 capsule in the morning instead, which she finds makes her more calm and focused at her work. One of the important reasons we chose Magnesium Breakthrough is it has the full spectrum of 7 types of magnesium, and it's made with all natural ingredients, soy-free, gluten-free, lactose-free, non-GMO, free of chemicals and fillers. To support your wellness, simply visit magnesiumbreakthrough.com/modern and use the code MODERN10 to get your Magnesium Breakthrough with a 10% discount. Thank you for your support. So you mentioned, so I mean, it's not in the book, but I understand that you also view glutathione as, you know, a very important biochemical. So you can boost. So I guess, first of all, can you talk very briefly about glutathione and how it changes with age and how you might be able to boost its levels?
Yeah, glutathione is called the master antioxidant. It's made in every cell in your body. So it's one of the major substances in your body that will neutralize free radicals. And when you minimize free radical damage, you are slowing down your aging process. Glutathione also is the master detoxifier of your body. It's detoxifying every single cell in your body, and tissue levels of glutathione are highest in the liver, which is our organ of detoxification, primary organ of detoxification. And the third thing is that glutathione is essential for your immune system. all the white blood cells and lymphocytes and natural killer cells and all the different types of white blood cells require glutathione for their activity and function. And one of the studies I have referenced in some of the things I've written about says that even a partial depletion of glutathione causes a significant decline in the function of your immune system. There was a study published in early in 2020, I believe, at the very beginning of the COVID crisis. And the title of the study said, low levels of glutathione are the most likely cause of severe manifestations and death from COVID. So glutathione is a critical thing for immune system. It has powerful, significant antiviral characteristics. There's studies on glutathione with HIV and just a wide range of different types of viruses, including now the COVID virus. So master antioxidant, critical for your immune system, critical for detoxification. Glutathione is a multifunctioning compound that is critical for your health and your longevity. And I'm actually now writing a paper titled The Glutathione Theory of Aging, tying all this together. A number of years ago, 3 scientists won the Nobel Prize for their discovery of telomeres and telomerase. And the telomeres are these little repeating sections of DNA on the end of your chromosomes that are protective, and telomerase is the enzyme that produces them. And every time a cell divides, the telomeres get shorter, and when they get down to the end, there's significant damage to your DNA and your chromosomes. They now know that telomeres and the activity of telomerase are totally similar to your levels of glutathione. So glutathione is really a biomarker of aging. And I think everybody can boost their longevity and their long-term health by taking proactive steps to boost their glutathione. There's several different ways to do this. There's some nutritional precursors like N-acetylcysteine and lipoic acid boost things a little bit. A lot of people are going to functional medicine doctors and getting intravenous glutathione, but that gets oxidized very quickly, only lasts for 2 days maximum. So people who are doing active intravenous glutathione therapy need to go to their doctors twice a week. That means time to drive to a doctor's office, make appointments, sit in the chair for the IV glutathione, and the cost involved with it, several $100s per infusion. And then there's another really significant breakthrough. Back in 1995, a microbiologist at the University of Tartu in Estonia, which is a small country that borders on Russia, an Eastern European country, Professor Marika Milkasar extracted a strain of bacteria from a healthy 1-year-old child. The name of the bacteria is Lactobacillus fermentum ME3. And when they initially tested this strain of bacteria, they couldn't figure out what was going on because its antioxidant potential was just off the charts. So it took several years of studying this strain of bacteria, but they finally discovered the reason its antioxidant potential is off the charts is it synthesizes glutathione. And a number of years later, they found out it also synthesizes manganese superoxide dismutase. So it produces tremendous antioxidant potential. And in human clinical trials, people taking, we call it ME3 for short, Lactobacillus fermentum ME3. But when people take this bacteria, 1 or 2 capsules of it for 3 to 4 weeks, they get a 16% reduction in oxidized LDL cholesterol, which is a significant reduction in cardiovascular risk. There's a substantial reduction in the 8-isoprostanes, which is a marker of free radical damage in cell membranes. So there's a dramatic reduction in free radical damage. They got an astounding 49% increase in the ratio between reduced glutathione to oxidized glutathione. Reduced glutathione is the active form, and when it gets oxidized, it's no longer functional. So tremendous boost, 49% in reduced glutathione levels. And because the glutathione doesn't just act as an antioxidant itself, it is also active in recycling and reactivating oxidized vitamin E and vitamin C. So the people taking the ME3 for 4 weeks, I believe, had a 26% increase in total antioxidant activity throughout their body. So tremendous boost in the antioxidants in your system, to really protecting you from the aging process. A more recent study was done in a strain of mice that are bred to get early diabetes. And so this strain of mice get diabetes, they put on weight very fast and become obese. Scientists gave one group the ME3 bacteria and the second group placebo. Placebo group put on enormous amounts of weights and developed all of the problems associated with diabetes and obesity. The animals getting the Lactobacillus fermentum ME3 didn't develop that way at all. They gained far less weight and remained having good insulin sensitivity. So that's an animal study, but it indicates that there's tremendous benefit for things like metabolic syndrome for taking Lactobacillus fermentum ME3. And when you take this orally, one of the main functions it does is protect the villi in your epithelial cells in your gastrointestinal tract. There's a tremendous amount of metabolic activity in all of these villi in the gastrointestinal system. And the glutathione in there is keeping that the free radical production under control and really protecting the lining of your gastrointestinal tract. So I think one of the most proactive things that people can do for healthy aging is to boost their glutathione levels. And the primary way to do this is take a product that contains this Lactobacillus fermentum ME3, and people can search this on the internet and find products containing Lactobacillus fermentum ME3. So that's the way to go about this. Just do a search for Lactobacillus fermentum ME3, and you'll find products that contain it. The patent for it is still owned by the University of Tartu in Estonia, but there's a company that has licensed it from the university, and they're making products available worldwide.
Interesting. I had not heard of that. I mean, I've heard of Lactobacillus, but not that particular strain,
Yeah,
I guess.
It's a very unique strain. One of my other really key items that I focus on for life extension and healthy aging is the gut microbiome. And it's really critical for people to understand how important it is to have a healthy gut microbiome. And unfortunately, most people don't, because of sedentary lifestyles and processed food and so forth. And I've written about this. In fact, any of your listeners can get a free copy of a booklet that I wrote called Dr. Ohhira's Probiotics and Postbiotic Metabolites. They can get this by going to my website. It's naturalpharmacist.net/Ohhira book. That's OHHIRABOOK. And they can download a free copy of this booklet. And it talks a lot about postbiotic metabolites. And I've written a paper that was published in a scientific journal titled Postbiotic Metabolites, The New Frontier in Microbiome Science. For many, many years, people have intuitively known that probiotic bacteria provide health benefits, but nobody really understood the mechanism of action. I'm helping the world to understand how this works. The way our gastrointestinal tract works and the probiotic bacteria work, their primary job is to convert substances in your food into secondary compounds that we call postbiotic metabolites. And it's these postbiotic metabolites that have a wide range of biological activity. It's not the bacteria themselves. And the types of food required to feed your probiotic bacteria are dietary fibers and polyphenols. And polyphenols are the compounds that give color to fruits and vegetables and so forth. There's over 8,000 polyphenols that have been structurally identified. But humans don't digest and metabolize dietary fibers and polyphenols. Most of these compounds pass totally through your digestive system, but when they reach the colon, they're the food for your probiotic bacteria. And your bacteria will ferment them and convert them into smaller compounds that have a wide range of different types of biological activities. Some of them are anti-inflammatory, some of them directly kill pathogens, some of them are involved in gut-brain communication. There's just a whole range of biological processes that these postbiotic metabolites take part in or are responsible for. But I've got several studies that document the fact that 95% of American children and adults do not consume adequate amounts of dietary fibers and polyphenols. So most people are not consuming a diet that allows their bacteria to produce the compounds that regulate their health. So this is a big problem, and I am the scientific director for a company called Essential Formulas, based in Dallas, Texas, and we are the sole importers of Dr. Ohhira's probiotics into the United States. These products are available in many other countries around the world, but Dr. Ohhira's probiotics are made in a fermentation process in a sterile laboratory in southern Japan, a sterile warehouse, where they put multiple types of foods in large 80-gallon fermentation vats, along with 12 starter strains of bacteria, and the bacteria get 3 to 5 years to break down the components in those foods and produce these postbiotic metabolites. And every dose of Dr. Ohhira's probiotics contains over 500 of these postbiotic metabolites. So it's probably the best way I know of to really keep your gut microbiome in healthy conditions, or to help correct gut microbiome problems.
We've talked a little bit about your protocol. I mean, like what you do to keep healthy and to, have good Healthspan.
Sure.
So could you share kind of summary of what it is that you do?
You bet. The top two things on the list are a healthy diet and regular exercise. And for a healthy diet, I was a vegetarian for a number of years. I'm not a vegetarian anymore. I'm just fanatical about eating healthy food. And it's important for people to realize that the majority of your diet should be plant-based foods that contain dietary fibers and polyphenols to feed your gut microbiome. People have to learn that when they eat, you're not just feeding yourself. You're feeding 100 trillion guests. You're feeding your gut microbiome. And it's the dietary fibers and polyphenols in plant-based foods that are the food for your probiotic bacteria. In terms of exercise, I've got a study on my blog that I summarized on my blog. A group of Italian scientists that studied a large number of elderly humans between the ages of 96 and 104, 105. And they looked at everything imaginable, trying to figure out what's the number one thing for healthy aging. And it turns out the number one thing for healthy aging is maintain your muscle mass. So it's critical that people do some form of strength building exercise on a regular basis, or they will gradually lose their muscle mass and their strength. And that's sarcopenia. That's this age-related disease where you are losing your muscle mass and your strength. So after exercise and healthy diet, of course, you know about rapamycin, and I do take a multivitamin. I take extra vitamin C. I take vitamin D, and I try to keep my vitamin D levels up around 60 or 70. The normal medical range, most doctors and most labs say that 30 or above is adequate. I think that's malpractice. I think people should try to get up around 60 to 70 nanograms per milliliter for vitamin D. Another one of my favorite anti-aging nutrients is coenzyme Q10. And most people don't realize that most coenzyme Q10 products are close to worthless, because coenzyme Q10's melting point is 10 degrees higher than body temperature. So the coenzyme Q10 in most product crystallizes, and we cannot absorb clumps of coenzyme Q10. It has to be single molecules in solution. And a company based in Europe, PharmaNord, has a patented process for keeping their coenzyme Q10 in solution. They've done multiple studies showing that the plasma levels for coenzyme Q10 from their product is 3 to 10 times higher than most other products on the market. Most of the big randomized clinical trials with coenzyme Q10 over the last 20 to 30 years have used PharmaNord's coenzyme Q10 as the product in their experiments. And if people at checkout use a code Ross 10, they'll get a 10% discount on their order from PharmaNord for coenzyme Q10. And let's see, what else do I want to recommend here? I boost my glutathione levels regularly with one of the Lactobacillus fermentum ME3 products that we talked about. And I think that covers most of the major products that I take. There's half a dozen other ones that are, I won't get into discussing a lot of them because I just think on our program today, it's good to just kind of hit the high points for the real important ones.
Yes. And you said you were doing some aerobic, getting back
yes,
into.
I'm starting to, I've with COVID, I could not exercise with a mask on. And a few months ago, I had a health problem so I had to go 3 months without any exercise. And so I'm really, I just turned 80 a few months ago. And so I'm really working at trying to get my aerobic fitness back. And so I started doing spin classes at the Y, and an hour spin class has really taken me to the wall, but I'm determined to keep up with it because it's really important to try to maintain not only your muscle mass, but also your aerobic fitness.
It is. Yes. I know that
another supplement I want to just emphasize that's really critically important. Some of the omega-3 fish oils, really very important for people to taking those on a daily basis also.
Yep. Yeah.
That kind of rounds it out.
Good. Okay. So to wrap up, I mean, I think you talked, I was going to say, so where can people find more information? But so they can certainly go and buy the book, right? You can go and find the book. It's on Amazon and
that's a good point. Let me mention to you the way people can order the book is to call Life Extension, and globally, everybody can call Life Extension. The number is 1-866-598. I have to glance at it here, 6747. So again, 866-598-6747, toll-free number. And if people order my book from Life Extension, they will also get a free 6-month subscription to the Life Extension magazine.
Okay, thank you. So,
Great.
Yep, you can go get the book, learn all about rapamycin. And so is there any kind of websites or any other resources that we haven't spoken about already?
My website is naturalpharmacist.net. And I have just an enormous amount of information in my blog. There are different types of articles, and I'll be continuing to put new information up about rapamycin. I'll have a site on my blog about Rapapro, the new drug from International Anti-Aging Systems, and how people can order that. I'll be putting up information about my ongoing lab tests and my own personal sirolimus plasma levels, and just keeping people abreast of that. So I'll be keeping all that information current on my blog, naturalpharmacist.net.
Okay, we will link to that too.
Yeah, I'm a recovering pharmacist, by the way. I don't count pills anymore.
Right. Yeah. But it's great, the work that you're doing, and it's still spreading the news and spreading information. It's really helpful.
That's my passion. You bet.
Yeah. Okay. So, Dr. Pelton, thank you so much for joining us today.
Richard, thanks for the opportunity to talk with you and share it with your listeners.